I mentioned this morning we would look at a song. This song was written in 1757, and we've just sung it, "O Thou Fount of Every Blessing." It's one that has, you might say, endured time. When we sing new songs, I think sometimes, will this song be around in 250 years? And frankly, there's some songs over the last 30 and 40 years that came to be new, came to be sung, and I really do think, yes, they will be around in 250 years. I remember the first time I sang, "Our God, He is Alive." I was in high school. I was at a youth gathering, and the emphasis in that particular youth gathering was on apologetics. And that's the first time I'd heard that song and sang that song. And yet it's a very popular song today. And I think that again, in 200, 250 years, it will be a song that's sung. But then there's many songs that are written, and maybe they're sung for a short time. Maybe they make it into a songbook or two, and they don't make it. Some songs, well, I don't know if it's just the song leader didn't like them. Some songs, I'll admit, I don't think are so singable. Hard. Maybe it's the melody, maybe it's the harmonies, and they're hard, and so congregations struggle with them and then quit singing them. Maybe there's other reasons. This song, frankly, it's one of my favorites. And I think it's a favorite of a lot of people. And that's why it's been around so long. On Tuesdays, I go to the nursing home quite often. Years ago, it was just once a month, and then there was a time over the last 3 or 4 years that it was almost every week. And there's a devotional at 10 o'clock, and over that period of time, I was doing a lot of the song leading. Not now. Jesse Russell's there every week to lead singing. And so I'm there maybe 2 times a month to speak. When I chose songs, I wanted them to be songs everybody knew. Because guess what? Even though some people take a songbook, there's not many people there to really make use of that songbook. It needs to be songs they know. Some songs they're saying, we might say, all down the road. Every religious group sings them. This is one of them. Now, "O Thou Fount of Every Blessing," that's a little more peculiar, unique to us. Most people have the words, and the original words were, "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing." And the words were a little different than what we sing. Now, I'll admit, the words we sing, I like better. And it just may be because that's how I've sung it, that's how I've learned it, so that's why I like it. But I want to read to you the song, "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing," and read the entirety of the verses. And you're going to see, well, that's the song we sing. And then occasionally you're going to think, well, okay, that section was a little different. But it's the same tune, same melody, same song, just some words kind of got changed. These are the original words. "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, tune my heart to sing Thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnet, sung by flaming tongues above. Praise the mount I'm fixed upon it, mount of Thy redeeming love. Sorrowing I shall be in spirit, till released from flesh and sin. Yet from what I do inherit, here Thy praises I'll begin. Here I raise my Ebenezer, here by Thy help I've come. And I hope by Thy good pleasure safely to arrive at home. Jesus sought me when a stranger, wandering from the fold of God. He, to rescue me from danger, interposed His precious blood. How His kindness yet pursues me, mortal tongue can never tell. Clothed in flesh till death shall loose me, I cannot proclaim it well. Oh, to grace, how great a debtor daily I'm constrained to be. Let thy goodness, like a fetter, bind my wandering heart to thee. Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it. Prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, O take and seal it. Seal it for thy courts above. Oh, that day when freed from sinning, I shall see thy lovely face. Clothed then in blood-washed linen, how I'll sing thy sovereign grace. Come, my Lord, no longer tarry. Take my ransomed soul away. Send thine angels now to carry me to the realms of endless day. Yes, there is an additional verse. And like I said, you'd notice, well, those words are a little different in that spot. But then we get back to the same words we sing. Now, we're not the only folks who sing a little different version of that song. In fact, various religious groups in some of the hymnals that they have published have changed words a little along the way. And if somebody says, well, how does that happen? I don't really know. I kind of suspect that the editor of the songbook, he just thought, I think these words would be better, and he changed them. And then they survived, of course, his songbook that he edited. And then the next 50 years went by and somebody said, I'm going to edit a songbook. And then they pull out his version of that song. And so there we go. It has, this one particular document I printed out had about 4 or 5 different versions of this song. And it mentioned that in the South, and then it gave the O Thou Fount of Every Blessing, like we sing it. But, like I said, in churches of Christ, in our hymnals, O Thou Fount of Every Blessing. About 250 years old. You know, if somebody said, well, Steve, why is that one of your favorites? I just almost think, well, have you read the words? You know, have you paid attention to the words? There's some songs and words are a little bit obscure and are hard to understand. Now, I'll admit, there's a couple of things in here that, well, if you didn't know the background or maybe you hadn't heard the word, English dictionary sometimes can help. You might wonder, exactly what is he saying? But understanding it, you realize how deep and personal these words are. And then it's just, I think, a beautiful song. To hear it sung is beautiful. If you were to go Google, O Thou Fount of Every Blessing, well, you don't come up with O Thou Fount of Every Blessing. You come with a lot of listings for Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. And you can hear various people sing the song. Some beautiful renditions men have done of this song. So let's consider some things about the song, O Thou Fount of Every Blessing. It starts in verse 1. O Thou Fount of Every Blessing, tune my heart to sing thy praise. Streams of mercy, never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. You know, he says, come thou fount of every blessing. I can't help but think he's speaking of this fount. Well, that's God. That's where every good gift and every perfect gift comes. James 1:17. It's from God. This made me think of kind of growing up. My grandparents, a few occasions on our way to Aliceville, would drive by an artesian well. And then one occasion their well had, I'm not sure if it had gone dry or if it had gone bad, but we had to take every jar that we could find, and it seemed like they had a lot of gallon jugs. Go to that artesian well, fill them up, and then we would bring them back, and that's what they had until they ran out and had to make the next trip to the artesian well. This artesian well, there was a pipe out of the ground, and the water never stopped flowing. And then there was a pool kind of around it of water. I don't know who it belonged to. In fact, I don't even know exactly where it is. I asked Charlotte, I said, do you remember where? Because there's so many little kind of wide spots in the road, little communities, and they have names. And I tried to Google it, tried to find it, couldn't. But I remember seeing it, and the water never quit flowing. And that's the way God is with His blessings. Oh, thou fount of every blessing you have, it's from God. Then He says, tune my heart to sing thy praise. You ever seen somebody tune a guitar? And then they get it just right. Well, He's not talking about tuning a guitar. Tuning the heart. Tuning the heart. That is getting the heart so that it understands God's blessed me. To get the heart to where I'm thankful for those blessings. Listen to Psalm 19 verse 1. I will give thanks with my whole heart. Psalms 111 verse 1. I will give thanks to the Lord with my whole heart. I think that's what he's talking about here. Of all the blessings from God, let my whole heart be thankful. And then he says, streams of mercy never ceasing. It's not just the blessings generally, but in a very specific way, God's mercy. And I think we'll see as we continue, God's Son's precious blood. It's being sealed for the courts above. It's not just, He gave me my food today and my drink and my clothes. It's not just, I'm feeling better today. The illness, sickness, it's gone. I've got greater strength. No. It's more and better that this song is considering. Streams of mercy. Mercy is an interesting word. One of the reasons I find it interesting is you go look in a translation. How many times do I find the word mercy? And then take another translation and find out, wow, it's quite and can be quite different. And it's because not always translated mercy, depending on the translation, how it's translated. Of the three I checked, the New King James Version gets the nod of having the most times the word mercy is found. And you find it 282 times. You find it 100 times in the book of Psalms. Psalm 100 verse 5. Mercy is everlasting. Psalm 106 verse 1. Mercy endures forever. Streams of mercy never ceasing. Call for songs of loudest praise. Praise God for His mercy. Teach me ever to adore Thee. I want to preach some lessons in the coming weeks, kind of in keeping with our theme. And 9 o'clock is 9 o'clock nourishment, to talk about Bible classes. And then to have a lesson about 10 o'clock worship. And then to discuss, just as we would meet the second time, 5 p.m. And I thought, you know, what do I call that? I thought, 5 o'clock adoration. 5 o'clock adoration. You know, this is where I want to sing some more. I want us to pray some more. I want to study some more. I adore my God. I adore my Savior. Teach me ever to adore Thee. May I still Thy goodness prove. And while the hope of endless glory fills my heart with joy and love. Verse 2. Here I raise my Ebenezer. You see, that's kind of the scratch your head, you know. Here I raise my Ebenezer. It's from 1 Samuel chapter 7, verse 12. And forgetting the word Ebenezer from 1 Samuel 7:12, this has little meaning maybe to someone. Maybe never having read 1 Samuel 7:12, once again, little meaning maybe to someone. So what's this idea of, here I raise my Ebenezer? Well, if you go back to 1 Samuel 7, you will find it's another battle with the Philistines. And in fact, if somebody says, who are the Philistines? Just think arch enemy of the Israelites. Now, there were more than just one, but the Philistines were forever a pain in the side of the Israelites. And there were times that the Philistines seemed to have, you might say, the bigger army and the stronger people. And that was the case in 1 Samuel 7. But God's people were victorious. And so the raise my Ebenezer, it means stone of help. And that's literally then what was erected to show God's help. It says, here I raise my Ebenezer, hither by thy help I've come. And so this is pointing out the help that God gives, emphasizing the help that God gives. And I hope by thy good pleasure safely to arrive at home. To arrive at home. I don't think he's talking about my house at 1207 Lakewood Drive. I think he's talking about our final home, heaven. Again, here I raise my Ebenezer. Hither by thy help I've come. And I hope by thy good pleasure safely to arrive at home. No man gets to that heavenly home without the help of God. Find it interesting, he says, and I hope by thy good pleasure. That's kind of reminiscent of Ephesians 1:5 that says, having predestinated us to the adoption of sons by Jesus Christ unto himself, according to the good pleasure of his will. There's that idea of good pleasure. Wait. God takes pleasure? God takes, if you would, joy? You know, you read about that lost coin. When found, there was what? Joy. You read about that lost sheep. When found, there was joy. You read about that lost boy. When it was found, there was joy. And you, lost and found, there's joy. Jesus sought me when a stranger. Some of you've got some very good friends that are just like family to you. You've got family that mean the world to you. It says, Jesus sought me when a stranger. Wandering from the fold of God, even as the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister, that is, not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. That's how Jesus sought me when a stranger. He gave his life for me. He to rescue me from danger. interposed his precious blood, in whom we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sins according to the riches of his grace, Ephesians 1:7. Interposed, he put his blood between me, my sin, and God. Now verse 3. Oh, to grace, how great a debtor. You know, in verse 2, we had the word mercy. Well, verse 1, streams of mercy. And then in verse 2, this idea of how that he has sought me and he's interposed his precious blood. That is God's grace. But now, oh, to grace, how great a debtor. Oh, to grace, how great a debtor. In Romans 8, verse 12, you read, we are debtors, not to the flesh, to live after the flesh. Has there ever been something done for you or for someone in your family and you thought, I'll never forget that? Or somebody did something for you or something for someone in your family, and your thoughts are, if ever they need anything, well, I just say this, if they've done something for you and your family, I hope you feel that way. So thankful, and even like you have a debt of gratitude. Now you think about what God has done for us, what Jesus has done for us. Think about his grace. Oh, to grace, how great a debtor. Daily I'm constrained to be. The idea is I'm compelled to be this debtor because of his grace. One of my favorite verses is Ephesians 1 verse 6. And I think most of the time it's one of those we read over quickly and don't just think so much about. But it says, to the praise of his glorious grace, which he has blessed us in the beloved. If I was going to kind of write it in my words, I'd write, praise God for his glorious grace. Oh, to grace, how great a debtor. Daily I am constrained to be. Let thy goodness, that goodness of God that gave us that grace. Then it says, like a fetter, bind my wandering heart to thee. All right, fetter. We don't go around and fetter very much, do we? And that's a word, frankly, some people just need an English dictionary for. And, you know, if you look it up, fetter, it means chain or manacle used to restrain a prisoner, typically placed around the ankles. Think about it in terms of a band of steel with a chain on it that holds the prisoner in place. Let thy goodness like a fetter. Let God's goodness be that chain around my hand, my arms, my heart, that bind me to God, that keep me from wandering. You know, it says, never let me wander from thee. Now, this is where our words differ from the original. It says, prone to wander. I'm not sure which you like better. We are a little prone to wander. Here's not so much the confession, but the plea, never let me wander from thee. Somebody asked, well, did this fellow who wrote this song, did he wander? Well, here's what one person wrote. They wrote a little bit about his life. And then they said Robert Robinson died on June 9, 1790. Had he left the God he loved? A widely told but unverified story says, this means it's a story that, saying you can believe it or not, that one day he was riding in a stagecoach and a lady asked him what he thought of the hymn she was humming. He responded, Madam, I am the poor, unhappy man who wrote that hymn many years ago. And I would give 1,000 worlds if I had them to enjoy the feelings I had then. That's some sad words. Had he wandered? Well, I don't really know. But I know this. This song expresses how I feel. Never let me wander from thee. Never leave the God I love. David, with my whole heart have I sought thee. Oh, let me not wander from thy commandments. Thy word have I hid in my heart, that I might not wander from thy commandments. You know, if we were going to just do a survey, Bible character, and what'd he do wrong? Do you know that most Bible characters that have very much written about them, you find something that he did wrong. Some way in which they had wandered. Oh, we need to have within our heart this plea. Never let me wander from thee. Never leave the God I love. And then that last, here's my heart. Oh, take and seal it for thy